The debate has been raging for months. Who's in, who's out for Team Canada at the Four Nations face-off? Let's bring in the topics. FanDuel has set odds on all types of things related to the Four Nations face-off and Team Canada. We're going to go through a couple of guys with comparable odds, Coco, starting with Zach Hyman and Evan Bouchard, Oilers teammates who are at one point in time locks to make the roster. Who's more likely to be left off now?
AK, this is a tough choice for me because I always side with defensemen, but I'm going to choose Evan Bouchard on this one because I think Hyman's relationship with McDavid still makes him a factor being on this team. And when I was given the great honor at the Free Agent Frenzy to be the GM of Canada and select the team, these guys were virtual locks for me. But now they're more of guys that are looking are in the conversation of being on the outside of this roster than in, just because of their slow starts and the way that they play. When it comes to Evan Bouchard, he's more of a one-dimensional player in defense, and there's other guys that are playing more prominent roles that can carry that offensive role being asked for Evan Bouchard. So I still think he makes the team, but if there's one of these two that gets left off, I'm going to go with Bouchard.
Hyman better hope that the Canadian brass is looking for Chris Kunitz 2.0. Stamkos, Bedard, two right shot snipers, neither of whom are having great seasons. Do you see either as members of Team Canada?
Unfortunately, I don't, just because, Bedard was a guy I would have said yes because of his upside, his second year in the league and the growth and development you want him to have for Hockey Canada. Stamkos is a guy, not if he doesn't play in your top six, where does he play in your bottom six? And I think there's other guys that better fit that role. But the way these guys have started their seasons with Stamkos, a new team, and Bedard with Chicago, I think they're more on the outside looking in. And I would choose Bedard not being on this team.
A really interesting one is John Tavares, who has represented Canada internationally a bunch of times. Matthew Barzal is a guy who a lot of people viewed as a distinct possibility for Canada, but he's been hurt. Between these two, Tavares and Barzal, who's more likely to be on Team Canada?
These are both great candidates, but I would go John Tavares just because of how great he's played this season. You look at the resume that you just presented to me of his past experiences playing with Canada. Barzal's been hurt for most of this season. You wonder how much that's going to play a factor. But with Barzal, I think if he's going to be on the team, he's got to play in the top six. John Tavares has shown he can play other roles asked of them, which is why I would take him over Barzal.
Two guys who have really helped their cases to make Team Canada this year include Travis Konecny of the Philadelphia Flyers and Mark Scheifele of the Winnipeg Jets. Both are having great years. Which of these two do you see as more likely to make it?
I think, honestly, AK, both are deserving to be on this roster. But when you look at the way the roster plays out, there's only a couple spots, and these two guys are going to join names like others to fill out those last couple roles. But if I had to choose between the two, I'd definitely go with Mark Scheifele because he has more game-breaking abilities. He's done an unbelievable job leading the Winnipeg Jets in the seasons that he's had so far. He can play with skill. And, in previous years, Canada's always gone with the mentality of talent will adapt. And this year and their last previous teams, they're going with the traditional roster. So maybe that can help Konecny. But if I was to choose, I'd go Scheifele.
It's so fascinating because the bottom six of Team Canada could go any which way, including the last two guys we are debating here on Power Plays powered by FanDuel, Tom Wilson and Nick Suzuki. Now, Wilson a right winger, Suzuki plays down the middle. How do you see this one playing out?
Two great choices and two worthy choices as well, too. In the beginning, when I did this practice, I picked Nick Suzuki because he's more of a versatile guy that can play center, that can play wing, can play power play, can play penalty kill. Tom Wilson brings a different element, and for that reason, for filling out your bottom six, I would go with Tom Wilson on this one. One, because he's having a better year than Nick Suzuki has, playing on a better team, but he's being asked to play a different role. But the problem is you can't have too many of these guys. So when you're talking about maybe picking one of them, is it Adam Lowry? Is it Anthony Cirelli? Is it Sam Bennett? Is it Tom Wilson? But between these two, I would go with Tom Wilson and make it a wild card selection.
What about a vicious fourth line? Bennett, Wilson, Konecny, just wreaking havoc on opposition defense and forward groups. Is that something you might be buying into?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said that their previous mentality was talent will adapt, but in short tournaments like this, you almost have to go with the traditional build and ask guys to be comfortable playing different roles and maybe have different identities with each line. I think if you put together a line like that can bring that physical element and bring the intensity to a rivalry, which is what hockey fans want to see, I think it would absolutely be accepted.
Give us your thoughts on your roster for the Four Nations in the comments here. And we're 1 week away from the official announcement. Can't wait for that. Can't wait for the tournament. This has been Power Plays, powered by FanDuel.